Now page 3 of 8. This has to do with personal property. Remember, limits, $1,000 worth usually, unless you're not keeping home, then up to $5,000. Look at number 4, household goods. Now, trust me, everyone has something. I've had people come, oh, I don't own anything. What about the clothes you're wearing? Okay. A, list all items that you own individually or jointly with a spouse or anyone, even if you owe money on it, list it. B, do not list items owned by your children, a roommate, or a parent that lives with you. And usually the rule of thumb is if you have a $100,000 home, you have $1,000 worth of old and used furniture, $200,000 home, $2,000 worth, $300,000, so forth. Apartments have anywhere from $750 to $1,000. When you get to E, I ask you to list the number of these things you have. Do not use check marks. They don't tell me how many you got. Do not list zeros. My wife has to type this. She sees 1 0, so she's got to look for the 1 as opposed to the zeros. Do not list X's. Do not list individual values. It should go like this: 135, 136, 132. And then over in the section over here, you list the total value at that time. Number 5, collections. Now remember, 100 books may be a collection, but 20 books, 50 CDs are not collections. They're just a lot of junk sitting around the house. Number 6, list the value of your old and used clothing. Everyone has clothing, so you've got to have at least $100 to $200. Although I did have a client one come in there and says, $5,000. I said, are you crazy? $5,000 of clothing? Says, this suit that I'm wearing is worth $2,000. That's what I paid for it. And I've got about 50 of these kind of suits. I left the $5,000 there. But the rest of us, $30 shirt. Well, how much you pay me for my $30 shirt? $3, $2, $1. Just goes to show you, old and used clothes not worth anything. The value of jewelry, you bought a $1,000 item, it's worth $100 as a matter of fact. Something for watches. When you get down to number 8, the listing of the firearms, list individual firearms, Smith & Wesson Model 38, whatever, and then the caliber. We'll come up with values on that. And then go through those other items there. Most of these other items where you have staggered, most people don't have anything here. When you get down to the one there with the hash marks out there, 18, be careful. Large tax refunds owed to you, even though you haven't got it, even though you haven't filed a return, you may have a tax refund coming to you. These kind of things can push you over your exemption limits, and then you file your bankruptcy, and then the trustee someone asks you, how much money is your tax refund? $5,000. You will probably be losing it. So if you're going to have a large tax refund, it's better to get your tax refund, then file bankruptcy later. So put down what you expect. So the questions asked are, did you file all tax returns for last year and all prior years? And I hope to say it's yes, because if it isn't, then I want you to file those taxes. Unless you're really in an emergency, file those taxes and get any refunds. I've had too many people that just had to file. They just had to file. Their house is about to be sold. They had to file to get protection for them and their property. And so they had to file. Here comes a $5,000 tax refund that they lose. So the next question is, how much was your last year's tax refund? Well, if you don't know what your tax refund is going to be this year, I'd like to know what it was last year. It kind of gives me a hint. And how much does the IRS owe you right now is the last question there. How much, even though you have not yet applied for it? I'm going to ask that question. I'd like to see what the answer is. The next item, also number 18, does anyone or any entity owe you any money or anything, including payments on a mortgage right now? Yes or no? And then yes or no for the rest of those questions there. When you get down to the vehicles here, there's a section for cars. The next section, that's A through G, and SUVs and trucks, H through down to O, and then cycles, boats, trailers, planes. I have a couple of clients with airplanes, all other kinds of things you'd fill out there. And at the very bottom, are you self-employed or do you own an active business? If not, fine. If yes, answer those questions. Take a look at now page 4 of 8 pages. The very first item, this is about your financial affairs. I once asked, you have to list information about your affairs, and this young lady said, I said, no, not here, your financial affairs. And usually we're covering about a 2-year period of information there. For example, and people never want to fill this one out. How much is your tax refund year to date now, last year and the prior year. Look at your tax returns. How much? If you haven't got your tax returns, get them done. Or look at the last pay statement that you got at the end of the year and put down the total amount there. Simple to do, but people just don't do that. And if your spouse is filing with you, likewise for your spouse. If your spouse is not filing with you, still list it. Just because you list information from the financial aspects of him and her together is ours. We have to list the income because we're going to have to list the expenses later on. We have to see what that money is like. When you get down to number 2, list the source of any other income. How much per month you get from Social Security, child support, alimony, Veterans Administration. Number 3, list all payments of $300 or more that you've made to creditors in the past 90 days. Simple enough. And don't put down Sears 20, Sears 20, Sears 20. It should be Sears 60. Total it up for the past 90 days. Look out for the next one there. It goes from 3A down to C. Insiders. How much money have you paid to relatives in the past 12 months? 12 months, because if it's $600 or more, the court-appointed trustees can go after this money to bring it back. They're not going to waste their time for the first $1,000. But you get payments to relatives for $5,000 or $10,000. Trustees are going to go back and get that money for the benefit of equal distribution to all of the creditors. Number 4, list the lawsuits. What's the name of the suing party? Who's suing you? The number of the case, put that down. The name of the court, it's either circuit court or county court usually. In what county? And then what is it? Case pending, case completed, final judgment entered. Go down to gifts, number 7. What have you made $200 or more to a person or $100 or more to a charity? List those kind of items there. Number 10, what have you disposed of in the past 2 years? And in B, put into trust in the past 10 years or converted in the past 10 years. Closed accounts is number 11. And number 14, what property do you have that belongs to others? Number 15, what are the previous addresses or your addresses for the past 3 years? And number 18, list any businesses that you have business names under and the kinds of business that you've had if you had in the past 6 years. And just answer the next bunch of questions here. They're simple enough. End of that phase.